the list of senators that will go with him, but I want to wish them journey mercies and pray that the soul of our departed colleague will rest in perfect peace. Amen. Utilization of electronic mailbox. Distinguished senators, you are invited to note that the electronic mailboxes located within the precincts of the Senate new wing are now available for your use. Electronic mailboxes located within the precincts of the Senate new wing are now available for your use. Consequently, the chairman of the Committee on Senate Services is requesting distinguished senators to kindly introduce to the committee secretariat on SB 76 White House Senate Wing any of your aides whose data and fingerprints will be captured and configured for routine operation of your various mailboxes. So you select one of your aides that the fingerprints will be captured and the biometrics so that they can operate your various mailboxes. Signed, Distinguished Senator Karime Sunday, Stephen, Chairman, Committee on Senate Services. The Ad hoc Committee on the Collapse of Infrastructure in Nigeria. Notice of meeting. Members of the Ad hoc Committee on the Federal Roads Infrastructure and Erosion Challenges will have their immediate meeting as follows. Today, 3 p.m., meeting room 327, Senate New Wing, 3 p.m. This is signed by very distinguished Senator Yahya Abdullahi, PhD, OON, CON, Chairman, a member of the 10th Senate. Any petitions?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent the people of Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have a petition from one of my constituents, a final year student of the University of Abuja. His petition is addressed to you through me. Mr. President, this is a final year student. His name is Igwe Chukwuemeka Cyprian. He hails from Ichida in Anocha local government area of Anambra Central Senatorial District. That is actually my local government area. Mr. President, this is a student who was in the final year, and he was Director of Social and Culture of the University of Abuja Student Union Government. He was a final year student of Sociology Department. Mr. President, very pathetically, this young man and one or two others who were in the student union government were rusticated after they've completed their studies. They were waiting to collect their final result and prepare for youth service. But they were accused of circulating a press release, which they have denied, resisting the increment in school fees by the University of Abuja. Be that as it may, Mr. President, I just read paragraph 3 of the petition. He said, on the unproven allegation
Distinguished Senator Ume, we have agreed. You may proceed to lay the petition.
break the rule
Well, if you want to answer any question, is there any action pending in court? No. Then lay the petition. The petition is hereby referred to our Committee on Ethics and Public Petitions. The Senate Leader.
Point of order. Point of order.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm actually standing on a point of order. And my point of order first is Order 1B of our rules book. And if I have your permission to read, I will read. First,
Your point of order is on
1A and 1B. And if I have your permission,
you may read.
1A, the proceedings in the Senate and in all committees of the Senate shall be conducted in accordance with the following standing orders. And Order 1B, in all cases not provided for in this standing order or by sessional or other orders or practice of the Senate shall by resolution regulate its procedure. And then the second order is Order 12. Order 12, and specifically Order 12.1. Order 12. Yeah. Order 12.1 says, no person shall be admitted to the lobby or the floor of the Senate while in session, except the following, and only by consent of the Senate. So in other words, Mr. President, I'm not moving for a suspension of any of our rules. Rather, I'm moving for an invocation of a standing order, and that is specifically Order 12.1I, which specifies that former speakers and former deputy speakers of the House of Representatives shall be admitted into chamber with the consent of the Senate. And in view of this, I stand.
Your points of order, others are hereby sustained.
Thank you. I then move, Mr. President, that His Excellency, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, who in a current capacity is the Chief of Staff to Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief, be admitted into chamber to deliver a very crucial message on behalf of the President and CNC to the President of the Senate, here seated. And being specific, it is the ministerial list from Mr. President. Thank you, sir. I so move.
You must be into witchcraft to know what it is. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I wish to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate that the Senate do allow the Chief of Staff to the President of Nigeria to come into the hallowed chambers of the Senate to present the letter or the message from Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the Leader of the Senate has moved a motion in line with Rule 12, I, of outstanding others, that this hallowed chamber do allow the former Speaker of the House of Representatives and now Chief of Staff to Mr. President, Right Honorable Bajabiamila, to have entry into the session. And this has been seconded by the minority leader. Those who are in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Sergeant at Arms.
Point of order. We can continue.
Leader of the Senate. Distinguished colleagues, I am pleased to announce to the distinguished Senate and all Nigerians that Mr. President has sent a correspondence dated 27th day of July 2023 to this hallowed chamber, addressed to distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate, requests for confirmation of ministerial nominees. In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate for confirmation the underlisted 28 ministerial nominees. 1. Abubakar Momo. 2. Is not stated. Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Chuka, CON. 3. Architect Ahmad Dangiwa. 4. Barrister Hanatu Musawa. 5. Chief Uche Naji. 6. Dr. Beta Edu. 7. Dr. Doris Anite Uzoka. 8. His Excellency David Umahi. 9. His Excellency Ezenwa Nyesom Wike. 10. His Excellency Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, CON. His Excellency Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, CON. 11. His Excellency Nasir Ahmed El Rufai, CON. 12. Right Honorable Ekperikpe Ekpo. 13. Honorable Nkiru Onyechiocha. Onyechiocha. 14. Honorable Olubumi Tunji Ojo. 15. Honorable Stella Okotete. 16. Honorable Uju Kennedy Ohaneye. 17. Mr. Bello Muhammad Goronyo. 18. Mr. Dele Alake. 19. Mr. Latif Fagbemi, SAN. 20. Mr. Muhammad Idris. 21. Mr. Olawale Edu. 22. Mr. Wahid Adebayo Adelabo. 23. Mrs. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. 24. Professor Ali Pate. 25. 25, Professor Joseph Utsev. 26, Senator Abubakar Kyari. 27, Senator John Enary. 28, Senator Sani Abubakar Danladi. While noting that the above list is not exhaustive and that additional nominations will be sent in due course, I hope that the aforementioned nominees will receive the expeditious consideration and confirmation of the Senate. Please accept, distinguished Senate President and distinguished senators, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, signed, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, in view of the fact that we have not emplaced all our committees, this correspondence from Mr. President is committed to the Committee of the Whole. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order.
Yes, point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. My dear respective colleague, I am Suleiman Ekau Sumaila OFR, representing Kano South Senatorial District, Mr. Speaker, from Kano. Mr. President, it is a matter of urgent public importance. I am coming under Order 41, 41.1, 2, and 51. Mr. Speaker, it is in respect of the strike of NLC. If you allowed me, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, I will suspend all the relevant orders and go direct to the motion because of the urgency and the importance of the motion. Mr. President.
This is Senator Kawo, please read your point of order.
Matter of urgent public importance. Order 41.1. Page 28. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Then the second, if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all senators, the matter shall be stand over till next legislative day.
So, therefore, in line with our rule, which you have just read, just give us a brief of what the matter is, and it will stand to the next legislative date.
Okay, Mr. President, it is in respect of the impending or notice of strike by Nigerians Labour Congress, which gave the ultimatum of 7 days. And from the day they gave the ultimatum to today is almost 4 to 5 days. If we allowed it without taking it an intervention of this hollow chamber, Mr. Speaker, the plan.
So it is noted. Kindly bring it on the next legislative date as enshrined in the rule. Yes. Point of order, sirs.
No, I bring you under 51.
Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity. Order 41 and 51 combined, Mr. President. Mr. President, I proceed with your kind indulgence. Order 41 says, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 51 says, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Salisu Afolabi had earlier hinted me on this. And is it the view of the Senate that he be allowed to move the motion? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Please proceed with the urgent motion.
Thank you, Mr. President of the Senate. Yesterday, these hollow chambers moved a resolution in respect of the outbreak of a disease in some part of the country. I tried in vain yesterday to call our attention to the fact that yesterday, the National Association of Resident Doctors were proceeding on a nationwide strike. As we speak now, the National Association of Resident Doctors across the country, they are on strike. And we know that the resident doctors constitute the majority of healthcare professionals, many particularly our secondary and tertiary institutions. This is more so at a time that the citizens are going through some challenges occasioned by necessary but very painful reforms that are going on in our economic space. Therefore, we must also not deny them the opportunity of having access to health care, particularly now. My name is Shoaib Afolabi Salisu. I represent the good people of Ogun Central. I'm sponsoring this motion alongside with His Excellency the Deputy Senate President, Senator Barrow Jibril from Kano North, and distinguished Senator Akintunde Yunus from Oyo Central. I proceed, Mr. Senate President. The Senate notes that the healthcare sector is an essential service that requires utmost attention to ensure the welfare, well-being, and wellness of Nigerians. Aware that there are only 24,000 doctors available to over 200 million population, with a current ratio of 1 doctor to over 9,000 patients, in stark contrast with WHO's recommendation of 1 doctor to 600 patients. Further aware that Nigeria has witnessed mass exodus of very experienced medical professionals in recent times, and is therefore in dire shortage of healthcare professionals. Observe that the ongoing strike by resident doctors has resulted in suspension of critical health services, healthcare services, further exacerbating the fragile public health situation across the country. Further observe
that it is imperative for the federal government to promptly address the concerns of the resident doctors and find lasting solutions to prevent future occurrences of the strikes that disrupt our healthcare services now and then. Concerned that the outbreak of a highly contagious and deadly diphtheria disease in some states poses a significant public health concern and requires immediate, effective, and coordinated intervention. Further concerned that the ongoing strike by the resident doctors has led to the suspension of essential healthcare services, negatively impacting patients' access to medical care, and concerned that the well-being and health of Nigerian citizens are paramount, and the government must prioritize efforts to contain the diphtheria outbreak and ensure access to quality healthcare services. Senate resolved: 1. To urge the federal government to immediately engage with the leadership of the resident doctors to address their grievances and find lasting solutions to end the ongoing strike. 2. To encourage the federal government to identify and address the underlying issues leading to incessant strikes in the health sector and develop sustainable policies to prevent future occurrences, thereby safeguarding the health and well-being of all Nigerians. Number 3, to emphasize the need for the federal government to prioritize investment in the healthcare sector, including the improvement of healthcare infrastructure, capacity building for medical professionals, and the development of policies to enhance healthcare delivery in Nigeria. And to call on the resident doctors to consider the humanitarian implications of their strike action and prioritize the well-being and lives of patients, particularly in the face of the diphtheria disease outbreak in some part of the country, and immediately suspend the strike. Number 5, mandate the relevant committees of the Senate, when constituted, to conduct an inquiry into the underlying issues leading to the resident doctor strike and make recommendations for the sustainable resolution of their concerns. And finally, Mr. President, to direct the Federal Ministry of Health through the Center for Disease Control to swiftly implement measures to contain the spread of the diphtheria disease in affected states and ensure that necessary medical supplies and resources are readily available to combat the outbreak. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I enjoin you to please support this motion to ensure that we bring to an end immediately the ongoing strike by the resident doctors. They are the bulwark of our healthcare delivery system. We cannot afford that the only doctors we have left in the country who have not migrated abroad are on strike at a time the citizens need the comfort of the healthcare delivery system, as well as combating the disease that's ravaging some part of the country. Mr. President, I so move.
Yes, distinguished colleagues, behind Father Honsi.
Mr. President of the Senate, my name is Sunday Marshall Katung. I represent the people of Kaduna South Senatorial District. I rise to second this very important motion as moved by Senator Afolabi, and I urge colleagues to support the motion. And in supporting it, I wish to state as follows, Mr. President, with your kind permission, that this motion is not only timely, but it's also an emergency. Coming shortly after the motion I moved yesterday on the issue of diphtheria outbreak, I think that the motion deserves all the support we can garner. And I watched the news yesterday. Most television stations depicted the pathetic state of most federal medical centers because, yeah, the picture was pathetic in the sense that most doctors have abandoned their duty post. And in areas where few doctors were working, they stated clearly that the notice of the strike got to them late. That's why they were at work. So this issue requires an immediate intervention, and the intervention of the Senate will go a long way in ameliorating the sufferings that the people are being subjected to at this moment. The mover of the motion has also copiously argued the motion, and
and therefore does not require so much argument. The prayers are straightforward, and I urge my colleagues to kindly support the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Tony Way.
Thank you, our common president, our leader, distinguished colleagues. My name is Dr. Tony Nwoye. I represent the people of Anambra North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my contribution will be very few words. Number one, this motion is very timely because these resident doctors are the doctors who are the most critical workforce in our tertiary hospitals, vis-a-vis the teaching hospitals and federal medical centers. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, they are the middle and the junior cadre of our hospitals, and their services cannot be neglected. Sometimes in 2016, when I was in the House of Reps, when I was a member, I led the delegation of the then leadership of the resident doctors to meet with to interface with leadership of the National Assembly. We even met the then president because we had the serious negotiation on this issue of lingering crisis in the health sector. We resolved it then. I'm appealing to this Nigerian Senate, these young colleagues, for this our Senate to consider it expedient to have a committee as it contained in the motion paper so that there will be serious interface with the federal government so that this issue of tomorrow there will be strike, they will call it off and go. This matter did not start with this particular government. It is something that has lingered for a very long time. I believe that there must be give and take between the resident doctors and the federal government. At the same time, we want to use this motion as captioned by the mover and the sponsors to appeal to some of our colleagues for them to see reason to call off the strike, pending the time the federal government will do the needful. I so contribute. Thank you, Mr. President.
Dr. Yunusa.
Though I'm a co-sponsor of this motion, Mr. President, this morning I listened to the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors on television, and I think we can marry part of their demands with our discussions here. They made it known that on May 19, 2023, which is this year, they signed an MOU with federal government after meeting with the Senate and House of Rep Committee on Health. And that within that period and now, nothing has come out of the MOU. So I want to add that we make appeal to them to resume work and possibly work on how the agreement reached as contained in the MOU could be settled within them. They made known of 3 demands, sir. That they request for one-for-one replacement policy for healthcare workers. That's a policy. That they want immediate payment of all salaries, arrears, and new hazard allowance. That was what?
Point of order.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, I come by way of Order 8 sub 3 to move for an extension of time for us to be able to sit beyond 2 p.m. to clear all we have on the order paper for today. I so move, sir.
Minority Leader.
I rise to second the motion moved by the Leader of the Senate that we extend our sitting time beyond 2 p.m. to further discuss all matters on the order paper for today. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved for extension of time of our sitting beyond 2 p.m. Those who are in support of the motion say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, distinguished Senator Yunusa.
Mr. President, sir, I stand to amend the motion that we referred the issue to a committee of the Senate when constituted, because they said that they've met with the combined committees of the Senate and the House of Rep before, and an MOU had been signed. I would rather suggest that we take off from the point of that MOU. I so submit.
So the distinguished Deputy Senate President.
Mr. President, my name is Baroji Brain. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I'm a co-sponsor of this motion. And I want to reiterate that popular saying that health is life. And who are the managers, who are the key people that drive our healthcare delivery system? Of course, the doctors. So if the doctors are not working, it therefore means that our healthcare sector will be grounded. And it's grounded as we say, as we speak. It's therefore very, very important. Very, very, very important that we do all within our powers to make them come back to work. Because if we don't do that, then we all know that health is life, then there won't be life. Or our lives will be in great jeopardy. So I align myself with all that is said in this motion. I align myself to the intendment of this motion, because it's very, very, very important that we get our doctors back to work. Otherwise, we'll be in problem. It is said over and over again that as we speak, there's a disease outbreak in some parts of this country. Now, do we now add salt to an open injury? No, we wouldn't do that. Therefore, let's all agree to the prayers of this motion. Let's all agree to this motion in its entirety, so that we'll bring back our doctors to their various hospitals, and will enhance and also make sure that our lives will be saved, because we'll have the service of these doctors. I urge my colleagues to support this motion in its entirety, so that all the barriers will be resolved in the manner that it will be beneficial to the entire country. I so submit.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, I think the motion is very straightforward. So let's just go straight to the prayers. Prayer 1, urge the federal government to immediately engage with the leadership of the resident doctors to address their grievances and find lasting solutions to end the ongoing strike. Those who are in support of this prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, encourage the federal government to address the underlying issues leading to frequent strikes in the health sector and develop sustainable policies to prevent future occurrences, thereby safeguarding the health and well-being of all Nigerians. Those who are in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, emphasize the need for the federal government to prioritize investments in the healthcare sector, including the improvement of healthcare infrastructure, capacity building for medical personnel, and the development of policies to enhance healthcare delivery in Nigeria. Those who are in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Call on the resident doctors to consider the humanitarian implications of their strike action and prioritize the well-being and lives of patients, particularly in the face of the diphtheria disease outbreak in many parts of our dear country. Those who are in support of prayer 4 say aye, and those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5, mandate relevant committees of the Senate, when constituted, to conduct an inquiry into the underlying issues leading to the resident doctors' strike, and therefore make recommendations for the sustainable resolution of their concerns. Those who are in support of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 6. Direct the Federal Ministry of Health through the Center for Disease Control, CDC, to swiftly implement measures to contain the spread of diphtheria diseases in affected states, and thereafter ensure that necessary medical supplies and resources are readily made available to combat this outbreak. Those who are in support of prayer 6 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me, on behalf of the Senate, thank our dear brother. Yes, Senator Bangida.
Additional prayer, Mr. President, sir. I'm Babangida Hussaini, representing the good people of Jigawa Northwest. I'm from Jigawa State, sir. The additional prayer is that the federal government to create opportunities for effective participation of the private sector in establishing medical colleges to produce more medical doctors for the health sector in Nigeria.
Any seconder? Thank distinguished Senators Salisu Afolabi, distinguished Deputy Senate President Senator Barao Jibrin, and distinguished Senator Akintunde Yunus Abiodun for this all-important prayer, and hope that the resolutions of the Senate as met today will be implemented with seriousness and also taken into consideration in the ongoing strike. We also hope that the resident doctors will listen to the plea of the Nigerian Senate as met today to end this strike, particularly taking cognizance of the humanitarian aspect of it, the number of lives that are lost. Their profession is generally to save lives, not to lose lives. So we from the Senate are appealing to them that yes, while the ongoing negotiations are being made, that they should consider and suspend this strike in the humanitarian interest for the benefit of all Nigerians, even for the benefit of their families. And we will continue to monitor the progress. Thank you, Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Jibril Barao on the in vitro fertilization bill 2023 SB 47. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill. Thank you.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, in vitro fertilization bill 2023, SB 47, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Intro Vitro Fertilization Bill 2023, SB 47, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in my name on the Federal Fire Service Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, SB 46. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Fire Service Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, SB 46, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Fire Service Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, SB 46, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Dicket Satso Plank on the Federal University of Mining and Geosciences, JOS, Bill 2023, SB 12. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Mining and Geosciences, JOS Bill 2023, SB 12, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal University of Mining and Geosciences, JOS Bill 2023, SB 12, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Katun Sunday Marshall on the Federal University of Applied Sciences Manchok Establishment Bill 2023, SB 13. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Applied Sciences, Manchok Establishment Bill 2023, SB 13, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal University of Applied Sciences Manchok Establishment Bill 2023, SB 13, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Banigo Ipalibo Harry on the National Vocational Center Establishment Bill 2023, SB 16. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Vocational Center Establishment Bill 2023, SB 16, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, National Vocational Center Establishment Bill 2023, SB 16, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Jibril Issa on the Trade Offences Miscellaneous Provisions Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 48. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Trade Offences Miscellaneous Provisions Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 48, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Trade Offences Miscellaneous Provisions Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ndubeze Patrick Chiwuba on the Project Development Agency Establishment Bill 2023, SB 49. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Project Development Agency Establishment Bill 2023, SB 49, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Project Development Agency Establishment Bill 2023, SB 49, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ogoshi Onawo Mohammed on the resolutions of the National Assembly Compliance and Binding Effect Bill 2023, SB 50. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, resolutions of the National Assembly Compliance and Binding Effect Bill 2023, SB 50, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, resolutions of the National Assembly, Compliance and Binding Effects Bill 2023, SB 50, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Jaribe, Agom Jaribe, on the Police Act 2020 Amendment Bill 2023, SB 54. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Police Act 2020 Amendment Bill 2023,
SB 54, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Police Act 2020 Amendment Bill 2023, SB 54, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 10th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Nwokocha Darlington on the Nigerian Postal Service Bill 2023, SB 63. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Postal Service Bill 2023, SB 63, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Nigerian Postal Service Bill 2023, SB 63, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the 11th business, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the 11th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Buhari Abdul Fattah on the Cyber Crimes Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, SB 64. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Cyber Crimes Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, SB 64, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Cyber Crimes Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, SB 64, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 12th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Mpigi Barinada on the Chartered Compliance Institute of Nigeria Bill 2023, SB 66. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Compliance Institute of Nigeria Bill 2023, SB 66, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Chartered Compliance Institute of Nigeria Bill 2023, SB 66, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 13th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Akintunde Yunus Abiodun on the College of Education Special Oyo State Bill 2023, SB 67. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, College of Education Special Oyo State Bill 2023, SB 67, first reading.
distinguished colleagues, College of Education Special Oyo State Bill 2023 SB 67, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the 14th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in my name on the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC Act Amendment Bill 2023 SB 68. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 68, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. The first order of the day is the second reading of the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC Act Amendment Bill 2023 SB 68. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do suspend its Rule 78 sub 1 in order to read the bill for a second time. Mr.
The Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the Senate Leader that the Senate suspend Rule 78(1) to consider this bill for second reading. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those who are in support of the motion so second, they say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed to read for the second.
Well, Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, the motion for suspension of the rule having been moved and approved, may I now, Mr. President, with your permission, move that the bill be read a second time following the my lead debate and the contributions by our colleagues.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion moved by the Senate Leader, so second.
Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate. You may proceed now.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, lead debate on a bill to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2020 and for matters connected therewith 2023. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the general principles for the amendment of the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2023. This bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber today, Thursday, 27 July 2023. This bill, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, seeks to amend sections 2, subsection H, 9, subsection 1, 10, subsection A, and 12, subsection 1 of the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment, etc. Act Cap 86, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, by increasing the number of executive directors from 2 to 3. It also seeks to add a new section 9, subsections 1L, which creates a new Directorate of Corporate Services. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it should be recalled that the NDDC was established with the mission of facilitating the rapid, even, and sustainable development of the Niger Delta into a region that is economically prosperous, socially viable, ecologically regenerative, and politically peaceful. While it can be said that the Commission has made some modest impact in the realization of its founding vision, the Commission is at the moment bedeviled by challenges which have made it almost impossible for it to meet its obligations. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, this bill seeks to address all anomalies that have hindered the advancement of the Commission. Distinguished colleagues, I therefore appeal for your support for the passage of this bill. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, this bill has no financial implication and no compendium is attached as required by Order 76, sub 3 of the Senate Standing Orders 2022 as amended. I thank you, Mr. President, and dear colleagues, for your kind attention and for your kind consideration and attention to this matter. Thank you.
Distinguished Deputy Senate President.
Mr. President, I am Barrow Jibrin, I represent Kano North. Mr. President, permit me to commend the leader of the Senate and all those that initiated this amendment. I believe that this amendment will bring better accountability, transparency, and will enhance the overall operation of the NDDC, sorry. And it is important that we'll do all we can to make sure that this entity, which was established to enhance the living conditions and bring about the even development, infrastructure development of entire the Niger Delta region, in a way that it should be a place that we will all be proud of. I feel this is okay because the fact that the the Northeast Development Commission, as we speak, has three executive directors. And if you compare the operations, the transparency you see in that entity is quite different from what we've been hearing about happening in the NDDC. So it's good we create an environment similar to what we've seen in the Northeast Development Commission, which is doing very well. It's doing very well, better accountability, better transparency in the operations. And this cannot be unconnected to the fact that they have this kind of structure. So creating this kind of structure in Niger Delta Development Commission is something that we should all support. It is working out there, it's working in North East Development Commission, it has been proven. So doing the same thing, because over the years we've been hearing about how things are not being done well in Niger Delta Development Commission. And the few years that the NEDC, the North East Development Commission has become operational, we've seen the strides that have been achieved. We've seen the transparency that has been demonstrated. So I believe and I support that we should create a structure similar to what we are seeing, or we have seen over the years, in these very few years, that is being done in the North East Development Commission. So I so support, and I urge my colleagues to support this important bill. I so submit.
Yes, distinguished Senator Sadiq.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North and who are. Mr. President, I rise to add my voice that this bill is straightforward. There's not so much here because all the amendments still tell us at the same goal. And our job as legislators is to see what we can do to make life better for citizens. NDDC was established to ameliorate the pain of Niger Delta people, as well as to stimulate development. And since it has been established, we've had experiences. We also have the Northeast Development Commission to learn from. And having this department and amending the appropriate sections to accommodate is straightforward. And I think, Mr. President, I support that we make this bill to go for second reading.
Yes, distinguished Senator Isanaso.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Osita Izunaso. I represent Imo West. Mr. President, in supporting this bill, I think it is important that we make it clear whenever the Senate leader is sponsoring a bill, let us know whether it is his own bill or executive bill, since he's the one that leads debate on executive bill, because we don't have confusion regarding that. Having said that, Mr. President, the amendment to the NDDC Act, as is being proposed, is not complete. If you add one additional executive director to the two that we have, that is what he's seeking to amend. Then we have to also go further to amend the order in which member states will enjoy such appointment. Because in the substituting bill, in the principal act, the managing director and the two executive directors comes in a particular order. That is the order of oil production. That is why today we have somebody from Ondo State as EDP and somebody from Edo State as Executive Director of Finance and Administration. So in amending this act, we have to go further to say that one of the three executive directors will also come in terms of oil quantum, because if that happens, then Imo State will be in the line to benefit, because immediately after Ondo, as it is right now, is going to be Imo State in that order. So, Mr. President, I recommend most sincerely that before we go to public hearing of this bill, if there may be need for that, okay, when we are doing the clause-by-clause consideration, I will urge the Senate leader to kindly add it there in this amendment. I support the bill wholeheartedly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Isunaso. It's actually, if you look at the Northeast Development Commission, which we recently passed their management and board members, they have 3 executive directors and a chairman. But the NDDC has 2. executive directors and a chairman. The NDDC has 9 states. So sometimes some of the states feel shut out because of the fact that they have only 2 slots for management outside the managing director. So what the Senate leader is proposing is just to bring it in line with the Northeast Development Commission. Let them have 3 executive directors, which will afford at least an additional state to be in management outside the, which will afford Imo State, Imo State and the other states. So it's actually straightforward. And the appointment will also be in line with the same oil quantum as it's moving around. So it's not, it's very straightforward. It's not, in fact, if it were controversial, nobody will bring it up after 2 p.m. We will bring it up when it is 10 in the morning so we can actually argue and argue and argue. So for me, I would like to thank the Senate leader and call on the distinguished Senator Alero to close the debate. So, what order? What order? What order?
Sir, just the right
What? No, what order? No.
to the debate before you.
What order? Read the order. No. Read. Order 10, page 12. Please read.
Mr. President, sir. Order 10. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising and shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that a contempt or breach of privilege has been committed. This is
The civil senator, the civil senator Oshimole, your order 10 is noted. Yes. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to lend my support to the second reading of this bill. As already said, the Niger Delta Development Commission has been bedeviled with so many challenges. And this amendment is meant to address those challenges. By doing so, we are protecting the public revenue, which the National Assembly is meant to really protect. So it's a very straightforward amendment, and I urge my colleagues to support it. By so doing, it will enhance transparency and accountability in the way Niger Delta Development Commission is being run. We know of recent there has been a lot of controversies, and if this amendment will address such challenges and all the allegations made, I think it's a welcome development, and the National Assembly should support it. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, having heard the various contributions, I now put the question. Those who are in support of the view that this bill be read a second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for now to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected there with 2023, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected with 2023. Second reading taken. Leader of the Senate. The second reading taken and referred to Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in compliance with Senate Rule 84 of the Senate Standing Orders 2022 as amended, I now move that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of Whole for consideration of the bill. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, President. I second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate that the Senate do move to Committee of the Whole to consider this bill clause by clause. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. So we now resolve into Committee of the Whole. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend sections 2H 9110A 12.1 of the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act, Cap 86, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, by increasing the number of executive directors from 2 to 3, and 6 to add a new section 9, which creates a new Directorate of Corporate Services and for related matters therewith. Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act Amendment Bill 2023. Long title. Page 1. Number of clause 1. Amendment of the Principal Act, page 1. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment of section 9 on page 4. Yeah, I'm going. Yes. Amendment of clause 2. You see a section 2, right? On page 1. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment of clause of section 9, that is clause 3, right? On page 4. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. Yes. Yes. The civil senator. Yeah, you want to amend?
Proposed amendment, Mr. President. Section 2, subsection A. Let me read the entire section. Section 2, the chairman and other members of the board shall, A, be appointed by the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, subject to the confirmation of the Senate. I think that is where it should end. To add that we do so, the Senate does that in consultation with the House of Representatives is unconstitutional. The privilege and the right of the Senate to confirm nominees from Mr. President cannot be shared by another arm of the legislation. I so move, Mr. President.
Distinguished Deputy Senate President.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, sorry, North. I second the motion ably moved by Senator Adams Shomari. So second.
The motion has been moved by distinguished Senator Adams Oshomole and seconded by the Deputy Senate President that we delete the words in consultation with the House of Representatives, and we end with subject to the confirmation of the Senate in line with the Constitution. Those who are in support of this amendment say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I want to add amendment to page 2 that Anambra State which has proven oil deposits and has been gazetted as one of the oil producing states be added to the list. This is very correct. Why are you saying no? Please, I'm making. I think I'm protected, Mr. President, and then I can also submit the gazetted documentation to that, Mr. President, that Anambra should be added on the list of states with proven oil deposits and contributing to national account, federation account already. Thank you, Mr. President. Not point of order.
Mr. President, is Order 52.4. A senator must confine his observations to the subject under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, including a state or declaring a state as an oil producing is something that is done differently from what we are doing here. There's a procedure for it. So I call on my colleague to please follow that procedure in getting what he wants to be done. And he can bring it whenever he feels we should be part of the process, and then we get it done. So for now, this is quite, it's not in conformity with what we are doing now. I still submit.
Point of order is sustained. Clause amendment of section section 10, clause. Come now. You didn't specify it. Where is the clause 3? All these things you wrote. Amendment of sections. Distinguished colleagues, amendment of clauses 2, 9, 10, 12. That is not the bill. Amendment of clauses 2, 9, 10, 12. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. My point of order is order 52. 52.4. A senator is not allowed to read his a senator must confine his observations to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, I think the operative word there is irrelevant thereto. And the amendment we sought to put on the list of states that are all producing is not irrelevant.
The Senate had ruled on that. The Senate leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve back to plenary for the chair to report progress.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President sitting as chair. I move to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate that the Senate resolve to proper sitting to report progress. I so second.
We'll do that.
Mr.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senate, Deputy Senate President, Deputy Senate President, Deputy Senate President. There was a slight amendment that the power of the Senate to clear presidential nominees should not be shared, and that amendment was carried. Can you ensure that all the provisions of this amendment that they apply mutatis mutandis? Please move a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, Barrow Jibrin, Kano North. Mr. President, I move that the amendment that was brought forward by Senator Adam Oshomole, that the effect of that amendment should apply to all areas that the anomaly was discovered in the bill. I so move. Mutatis mutandis.
Distinguished Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, I rise to second the motion moved by the Deputy Senate President. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved by the Deputy Senate President that in the course of consideration of the various clauses, wherever the word "in consultation with the House of Representatives" occur, that we should amend it by saying that clearance shall be undertaken by the Senate, because that is in compliance with the Nigerian Constitution. Those who are in support of this, that it should go mutatis mutandis, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And then, distinguished colleagues, we also have another motion on ground by the Senate leader that we revert to plenary, and that has been seconded by the Senate Minority Leader. Those who are in support of the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress, say aye. And those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act Amendment Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Amendment of the Principal Act as recommended. Amendment of Section 2 as amended. Amendment of Section 9 as recommended. Amendment of Section 10 as amended, as recommended. Amendment of Section 12 as recommended. The short title of the bill, Clause 6 as recommended. The schedule, no amendment. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do suspend its Rule 78 sub 1 in order to read the bill a third time. Mr. President, I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion moved by the Leader of the Senate that the Senate do sustain Rule 78(1) to read this bill for a third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The bill will now be read for the third time. Clerk of the Senate. The Leader of the Senate, right.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, may I now move that the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC Act Amendment Bill 2023 be now read the third time. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to second that the bill Niger Delta Development Commission be read for the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected therewith 2023, third reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected therewith 2023, third reading taken and passed. Yes.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, us having passed that bill, let me just make a quick clarification that the leadership of Senate is very much aware of the concern of some of our colleagues as well as concern by members of public as to the interests of other other oil-producing countries. Let me, states, I'm sorry, sir. Let me just emphasize that the bill we just passed has to do with Niger Delta area, Niger Delta region. Awaiting also for the consideration of this distinguished Senate is the proposal.
Distinguished Leader of the Senate, I want to, what rule are you referring to? What rule are you referring to? You know, why I'm mentioning this is that, my distinguished leader, we shouldn't engage in argument. This is, please take your seat. We have just concluded one business. We are going into the next business. But if you want to bring another bill for us to consider other areas like Northeast, Northwest, Southwest, North Central, or we want to consider states, Anambra and others, you can do so. But this is not the place for information. We don't have a space for information. So please, Leader of the Senate, please proceed on the next business on the other paper.
Mr. President, it was actually a point of order, not an information.
Oh, but you did not say point of order.
Okay, sir.
Leader of the Senate, Leader of the Senate, proceed. Leader of the Senate, Leader of the Senate, you are recognized to proceed on the other paper, or you approach the chair. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, the well-guided leader of the Senate would like to introduce the second order of the day as a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Buba Umar Shehu and 16 others on urgent need to prioritize the implementation of item number 262 in the Appropriation Act 2023 Nigeria Customs Service Capital Cost 2023 Budget Proposal Detailed Breakdown Annexure 3, being construction of the Nigerian Customs Service Academy and Nigerian Customs Training School, Bauchi, as a one-stop customs academy and training school shop in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Buba Umar Shehu to move the motion. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Shehu Buba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Shehu Buba Umar, representing good people of Bauchi South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my motions is on the urgent need to prioritize the implementation of item number 262 in the Appropriation Act 2023, Nigerian Customs Service, Capital Cost 2023 Budget Proposal, Details Breakdowns Annexure 3, being construction of Nigerian Customs Service Academy and Nigerian Training School, Bauchi, as a one-stop custom academy and training school shop in Nigeria. Mr. President, the Senate observed that Nigerian Customs Service, being an organization that is considered as a cash cow revenue generating collecting body in Nigeria and in keeping with its core mandate of collections of revenue, preventions and suppressions of smuggling, collaboration with other relevant agencies, facilitations of international trade and economic development requires great deal of professionalism, which flows primarily from training and retraining of officers and personnel of the service for optimal performance. Note that due to the application of unethical conduct in the discharge of their duties, this reverse Senate on the 19th day of July 2023 considered a motion on reckless abuse of firearms by officers and men of the Nigerian Customs Service, sponsored by distinguished Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua, representing Katsina Central, due to the death of some innocent citizens of this country, which was brought about by or can be attributed to lack of effective basic training for staff development. Aware that because of the phenomenal concerns as stated above vis-a-vis the evolving challenges associated with the service, the federal government in its wisdom proposed for additional training school academy to be cited in Bauchi State, which is contained in item number 262 on the details of the Appropriation Act 2023, Nigerian Customs Service Capital Cost 2023 Budget Proposal Detailed Breakdown, Annexure 3, and is projected to be the best of its kind due to a number of factors such as easy accessibility, apt location, peaceful environment, complementary existing infrastructures, and supportive local communities, among others. Note that the proposed Nigerian Customs Service Training School Academy is a one-stop shop because it consists of administrative block, perimeter fence, senior staff housing, generator house, staff room, classrooms, libraries, laboratories, workshops, dining halls, girls' hostels, boys' hostels, intermediate staff housing, chief security office, sport area, drainage, among others, which is estimated to go approximately the sum of 14,200 billion naira as captured in the budget. Mr. President, also note that the construction of additional custom training academy to the existing ones will provide the needed professional training towards meeting the demands of institutions in the country, thereby bringing our officers, personnel of the Nigerian Customs Service in tune with the current realities of professionalism in all their dealings and international best practice, thereby ridding them of unprofessionals on ethical conduct, and hopeful that the federal government, under the able leadership of Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR, having come with the good mantra of renewed hope, will no doubt leave no stone unturned as far as full implementation of budget is concerned, particularly the likes of proposed customs service training, schools academy, Bauchi. Accordingly resolve to 1, commend the federal government on its resolve to solving the ever-growing training needs of Nigerian Customs Service officers and personnel within a view to meeting the international best practice and curbing locally disturbing concerns of misconduct and lack of professionalism amongst the service. Urge the federal government to ensure prompt and speedy implementation of item number 262 contained in the Appropriation Act 2023 Nigerian Customs Service Capital Cost 2023 Budget Proposals Details Breakdown Annex 3, the land for the planned construction having been earmarked. And finally, mandate the Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariff when constituted to embark on effective oversight as it has always been for the first of its kind state-of-the-art facility and ensure its full complementation. Mr. President, with your kind permission, I so moved. Thank you, sir.
Senator Tambua.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I am Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, representing Sokoto South Senatorial District. I rise to second this all-important motion as moved by my colleague, my brother and friend, Senator Shehu Buba. I so second. And in so doing, Mr. President, if you permit me, let me, in supporting this motion, add my voice by saying that this motion is very important in light of what this Senate on the 19th of July discussed on the motion sponsored by Senator Yaradua on the need, clearly from the discussions of the Senate that day, for customs and indeed all other security agencies to be trained and retrained and retrained. And we identified this gap during the debate on that day as part of the challenges and problems the customs are facing in this country. Therefore, the implementation and takeoff of this one-stop academy is important in achieving and curing that particular deficit that we have noted in the customs service. And indeed, retraining and training is a critical component of what is required for us to have effective, efficient, and standard customs service in Nigeria. So, Mr. President, I support this motion, and I urge that all of my colleagues do kindly support this motion. Thank you.
Senator Fadahonsi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, again, I rise to seriously give my support to the senator from Bauchi, my former zonal area, in creating and establishing a good and befitting academy, which we usually call college and training schools. Academy is just like advanced training school, which is more or less our own university. Due to these enormous functions, which consortium has been given by the new Act 2023, we have a lot, like facilitation of trade, both national and international, particularly on imports and exports. Collection of import duties and export duties, suppression and prevention of smuggling at all the borders and international airports. Then collaboration with agencies, other security agencies to perform its duties. Contribution to the national economic development and security services. All this must be performed by professional, modern professional customs. For now, we have only one college, about 2 colleges now, one in North Central, that is Abuja. That's basically the university of the university status is North Central. Then we have one in Lagos, which is almost congested. That's the Southwest. Then the training school again in Lagos. Bauchi has been very, very unique in the life of custom service, particularly at the zonal headquarters. Now, for us to decentralize and train all our officers, men and officers properly, we need to decentralize the training, the modern training techniques with modern equipment, where we have enough space, enough manpower to man and train all our officers to the best international practice. With this, Bauchi stands the best location, which I commend the mover of this motion. And I have to second this motion seriously now and support the motion now that it has been budgeted for in the 2023 budget. I think what the Senate needs to do is to impress on the service to produce more funds to finish these projects on time, so that our officers, the new ones, will be trained and the old ones will be retrained. I so second Mr. and support Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion is so straightforward, and training and retraining of our personnel will enhance productivity and increase our revenue, particularly in respect of customs. So let's rush to the prayers, and anybody, unless somebody has an amendment to any of the prayers. Prayer 1, commend the federal government on its resolve at solving the ever-growing training needs of Nigerian Customs Services officers and personnel with a view to meeting the international best practices and curbing locally disturbing concerns of misconduct and lack of professionalism within the service. Those who are in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the federal government of Nigeria to ensure prompt and speedy implementation of item number 263 contained in the Appropriation Act 2023, Nigeria Customs Service, Capital Cost 2023, Budget Proposal, Detailed Breakdown, Annex 3. The land for the planned construction having been earmarked already. Those who are in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, mandate the Committee on Customs, Excise, and Tariff, when constituted, to embark on effective oversight, as it has always been, for the first of its kind state-of-the-art facility, and to ensure its full completion. Mandate the Committee on Customs, Excise, and Tariff, when constituted, to embark on effective oversight, as it has always been, for the first of its kind state-of-the-art facility, and ensure its full implementation. Any amendment to this prayer? Yes, Sangodara. Well, I believe it's as the mover of the motion must have known that it is item 263 and not 262. So does he want to amend? Shehu Buba? You want to amend it? Okay, so clerk, please note. In the absence of any amendment to item 3, those who are in support of the prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me commend the mover of this motion, my distinguished brother, Shehu Buba, for bringing this, which is very timely. And it looks like every concern now is focused on the activities of customs. And the Nigerian Senate is very concerned with the current negative trend, particularly the incessant killings and what I may call incessant accidental discharge that seem to come from personnel of the service in the border towns across the nation. And I think these things are linked to nothing but proper training. And then having a facility such as the one proposed in Bauchi will also help as an additional training facility that will inculcate in them the ethics and ethos of international best practices to enable us to have the customs of our dreams. So I thank you for this, and I also thank my colleagues for their contributions. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I most respectfully move that we step down other items on the order paper for another legislative day. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion moved by the Leader of the Senate that we step down other items on the order paper of today for another legislative day. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Accordingly, Clerk of the Senate. Accordingly, the Senate is hereby adjourned to the first day of August, or Monday, July 31. So the Senate is hereby adjourned to July 31st, July 31st, 2023 at 11 a.m. prompt.